All right, what's going on, y'all? So for the first time in 6+ years, I'm injured. And I've actually got an injury that's full on taking me out of training. So today, I'm going to give y'all an update on where I've been. You know, it's been a while since I've uploaded an update for y'all, partially due to the setbacks I've been dealing with. And I'm going to give y'all a full rundown of everything I've been dealing with all of this hybrid training for getting ready for the 100-miler. Now with dealing with the injury, what the plans are moving forward. So just in case you're new here or you haven't been keeping up with my training over the last 6 months, about 6 months ago, I went ahead and decided to take a step back for the time from competitive professional bodybuilding and get my feet wet with hybrid training again. You know, way back in the day before I jumped into competitive bodybuilding, I did ultra marathons and I was a hybrid athlete, bodybuilder and ultra runner. And then I went all in with bodybuilding, didn't run for 4+ years straight. And then about 6 months ago, laced up the shoes for the first time. And I jumped back into it hard. I mean, if you guys followed along, you know that I was ramping up weekly mileage pretty dang quick. And a lot of you that have been along for the ride, you saw the struggles and the good that was coming from it. So to give y'all a rundown, before I get into kind of all the setbacks and everything, I want to deal with the good that I've noticed from the training since the last update. So the first big one, I've mentioned this to y'all before, and I've been preaching a lot on Instagram lately of one thing the last 6 months has been very, very apparent to me, made very clear to me, is how much easier it is to actually maintain solidified muscle tissue once you have it, even with high amounts of expenditure. So high amounts of cardio, or in my case, high mileage. You know, everyone was expecting, including myself, that I would lose, you know, a good bit more tissue. And I was running anywhere in the 30 to a little bit over 50-mile range on average over the last 6 months. I'll go ahead and throw my Strava up so y'all can see the last 6 months with the running. But I was doing a decent amount of weekly mileage, and for the most part, the muscle wanted to stick pretty hard. You know, it was actually pretty hard to lose a ton of tissue really quickly. Now, with that being said, you know, I went from 260 at my heaviest with bodybuilding to right now I'm sitting at 215. So I have come down in weight and I have lost some size, but some of that has even been intentional. You know, I was having more difficulty losing size than what I originally thought, and to make the running more efficient, I wanted to downsize a bit. So I pulled lifting volume all the way back to 2 to 3 times a week of full body sessions, to where each body part was only getting about 6 to 10 sets total per week. And even with that, you know, being on T or T, it maintained my size quite efficiently. So that was the first kind of big, really good revelation with this training, is if you have your split laid out correctly, to where you can really, really manage fatigue and really, really manage your intensity and volume layout, you can absolutely hold muscle tissue really, really efficiently while even running decent amount of miles. Now, a lot of this also goes into, you know, how intense are your runs? Are you doing a lot of speed training? Are you doing a lot of endurance training? But that was a big thing. You know, everybody's so scared of, you know, running is so catabolic, it's just going to rip through tissue. It doesn't. It does make building tissue, the building process, a lot more difficult. But to actually maintain your current size, if you've got your plan laid out correctly, and you've got the diet in place, it's not that hard to do that. The second big kind of like good news over the last month or so of training is, you know, even though the heat hasn't really died down yet, my run times were getting much quicker, much more efficient at the same heart rate. So you guys know that I do all my runs in MAF, in heart rate, and I log all of them. And my run pace at the same heart rate, with essentially the same conditions outside, has been getting a lot better, meaning I'm getting much more efficient at that heart rate, to where, you know, I was running some of my runs, 10-mile runs, for example, under 10-minute mile pace in MAF. So conversational pace, very, very easy, under 10-minute miles for 10 miles, and at my size, I was very pleased with that. Obviously, you know, it's not super, super fast compared to a runner, but for where I was starting from 6 months ago, being in the 12 to 13-minute mile range, you know, very, very pleased with that. Now, to get into the setbacks. So y'all know, if you've been keeping up with my training, that over the last several months, the biggest challenge I've had jumping back into running was somewhat of a surprise to me. So back in the day, when I was an ultra runner before bodybuilding, I never really had to worry about fueling and hydration as much, especially hydration. That was something that, was pretty easy. My rate of sweat loss was pretty average. But when I jumped back into running at my size, the rate of sweat loss, even up until now at 215, has been so out of control that I legitimately could not hydrate fast enough through these runs. So, all the way up to like 10 to 14 miles, I was fine. I would lose, about 10 to 12 pounds on a 10 to 14 mile run. But anything over 14 miles, I was just slaughtered by the end of it. I'd get back, and the amount of weight lost off the scale of essentially water weight was just mind blowing. And I had, the feeling of losing all that weight and being extremely dehydrated as well. And I tried everything from, absolutely slamming electrolytes, slamming water as much as I could, to essentially I was not able to take in water fast enough without puking it up. So that was the hardest part. Now, with all that being said, the rate of sweat loss was starting to come down and get under control. That was really getting under control up until about 2 weeks ago before the injury happened. Now, this injury has been something that I think has been in the works for quite a while, and I've just essentially pulled the plug on, serious enough now that I actually got to work around it. So y'all have all asked, how have I not gotten shin splints at my weight just jumping back into running? This was something that surprised me a little bit. So I've dealt with shin splints many, many times in the past when I was a pure ultra runner, hybrid athlete, all of that. When I jumped back into running this go around, within the first 2 weeks, I had tender shins. But because of that, I decided to go ahead and start running on the track, limit my runs to either the track or the trail, and it ended up becoming the trail. And with that being said, my shins have essentially remained at the same tender point that they were from the very beginning all the way through. They never fully healed back. I would wake up every morning with them being somewhat tender, which I know that's shin splints, and you're not advised to run on them, but I have run through shin splints in the past before, and it's been okay. So I continued that on. Now, if you've seen with my Strava, you see that there's a lot of build-ups to where I built up to 50 plus miles per week. Then I'd come down for a couple weeks and then build back up. That was essentially the shins getting to the point to where they would get really, really bad, that then I had to pull miles back pretty hardcore for the next few weeks to let them die down. Now, this last build up, it got to the point that I essentially couldn't ignore it. My last long run, I was only a couple miles into it, and I was already somewhat limping on them. And what I've experienced now, which I've never experienced in the past, was just pure shin splints, is with my left shin in particular, there's a localized spot that has woken me up in the middle of the night a couple times throbbing. And I'm essentially walking around with the pain now, just walking, or I'll even be sitting and feel it. So that's definitely not a good sign, and definitely not something I want to keep running through. It's the signs of a stress fracture. I'm hoping that it's not a full-on stress fracture, but that is the signs. And people that I trust in the running space, that I've reached out to, they full on tell me to, I got to lay off of it right now. So, this is, I think, the hard part with a lot of us that are very goal-oriented, driven, and have a high pain tolerance. I've dealt with this with a lot of, guys I was on the military with, a lot of guys just doing, hard physical challenges like this. We have higher pain tolerances, and we've gone through these hard physical challenges before that we've kind of calloused over that pain response, that it's easy for us to just turn our brain off. I could go out and easily run through the shin pain, and that's essentially what I've been doing over the last several months. But that's how you get injured. So that's where I'm at right now. I've got these shin splints. The left one is probably more than shin splints, but I'm not speaking that out loud. But that's where I'm at. So for this week, I've taken off this full week since last Friday completely with running. And I plan on, as soon as I feel no pain at all at rest, walking around to just ease back into the running. So instead of me jumping right back into 6 days a week, 50 miles per week, this next go around, I'm going to do things a bit more gradual and really, really ease back into it to not aggravate the shins again. This is kind of the name of the game of, if you're doing hybrid at this weight, if you're running really, really heavy distances, the heavier weight you are, the more impact you're going to be putting on your joints and like your shins and stuff. So, this is the balancing act that I'm figuring out. So in the meantime, right now, what I'm doing with training is, since I had been doing only 2 to 3 lifting sessions per week, and those just being full body sessions, starting this week, I did go back to my favorite 5-day week bodybuilding split, the one that I did essentially all last year and a half while competing as a pro. So I've jumped back on, added a lot of volume back into the lifting side to allow me to put a little bit more size and strength back on during this downtime. And then starting this next week, I'm at the point where I pretty much know I'm not going to be able to run next week. So I've got to figure out a way to maintain my my cardio. So rolling into this next week, I'm figuring out whether I want to, do endurance rowing, getting on the bike, whatever it is. But I will find a way to maintain kind of the fitness that I've got right now as I'm, adding back, the lifting volume and all of that. But, this is the part, that sucks. I think, a lot of people right now would be thinking that, I'm down because of the injury. Frankly, this injury doesn't really bother me. I've dealt with shin splints in the past. I have had to take off some running in the past from shin splints way back in the day. So that's not necessarily new. I think if this injury was more related to something that it would keep me out from lifting for a while, like vice versa. Let's say that, I had an injury that took me out from the lifting side, but I was still able to run. That would definitely annoy me and frustrate me more than, me still being able to lift and not really run right now. But with that being said, the hard part for me right now is, over the last 4 or so years, I've had a very, very locked in goal. It's, continually trying to build my way up in the bodybuilding world. It was first, winning local shows, then it was going to nationals, then it was turning pro, and then after turning pro, you want to win a pro show to make it to Olympia. There's a very clear path and trajectory of where to go next. And when I jumped into the hybrid world, I jumped in initially just wanting to, experiment with different training modalities. And the ultra bug bit me really, really quickly. And one thing about me too, guys, is I'm one of these people that mentally how I work is like once I get into something, I go all in. And there's pros and cons to that. It's a blessing and a curse. It's helped me with many things, especially in business. It's helped me financially, be really, really successful on a lot of goals I hit, but it's also come with negatives on, not being able to divert enough attention to other things in my life and all of that. But back to that, I went all in with trying to jump into doing a 100-miler, and me doing that at my weight and everything. You can see where I ended up now. So I've got an injury. So, this is the one thing I'm dealing with right now is not having a locked in goal. I've had locked in physical challenge goals for a while, and I had it a little bit with this 100-miler. With that being said, if I was to have like my dream kind of fitness challenge goal right now, it would be something more on the strength side that blended endurance. So how High Rocks now, High Rocks is skewing a little bit now more towards the strength side than just pure endurance challenges like ultras or Ironmans and all that. I wish there was something a little bit more over on the line on the strength side that was kind of the equivalent of High Rocks. Maybe something that was, like strongman with like an endurance component. I have no clue. But my point is, I'm struggling with not having a goal that A is really firing me up right now, B, 2, that I can actually physically handle right now and train for. That's where I'm at. So this is just kind of a little update for y'all on, where I've been, why, you've not been seeing my runs being uploaded last week, and how I'm dealing with this injury. So I've been asked a lot by you guys on shin splints. This is something that I've got pretty extensive experience with in the past and now as a bigger runner, how I'm getting over it. So if you guys want me to do a whole deep dive video on everything I've done in the past, all my knowledge on everything that can cause shin splints, everything that you can do to avoid shin splints, if you get shin splints, how to get rid of them quickly, and how to even potentially run through shin splints without making them worse. I can do a whole deep dive video on shin splints for you guys if you want that. But just let me know down in the comments below. But just want to bring you all this update on where I've been. So, moving forward, I'm just going to keep you guys posted on, where I go from here. But for right now, I'm rebuilding some strength and size while trying to maintain at least some base level of fitness before I lock in whatever the goal is going to be. And it might still be the 100-miler. When I get these healed up, it's going to be cold weather. I know I'm going to be itching to get back out there, but we'll see. I'm essentially at this point right now just wanting to find where I can really, really settle in with training with something that I actually enjoy. I've enjoyed the bodybuilding, obviously, and I've been enjoying the running, but to some extent the running started feeling a lot like a chore, and that's definitely not what I want in this stage of life for me right now. So I'm wanting to really, really find out, what type of training really, really fires me up. The bodybuilding side still does. That is something that I could not pull out. So I got to keep that in, but I got to find out either, a running goal that I want to accomplish or something on, outside in that goal, that really fires me up. But I'll keep you guys posted with this. Just want to bring this update to you guys. If you could, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Be happy, be positive, be powerful, and have a great rest of your day.